What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Canada's biggest cities, ranked worst to best. That's right, this can't be some nice little video where we just sit back and admire Canada's great cities. We have to throw in a little controversy by having them ranked worst to best. I'm not exactly sure what the criteria is gonna be for ranking the cities, and this is all just in good fun anyway. But I am curious about what cities are gonna be on this list, and I have to admit I'm curious how this video is gonna rank them and why exactly. So, let's take a look.
The 9 largest cities in Canada ranked from worst to best.
Okay.
Number 9, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Winnipeg?
Oh.
More like lose a leg. No, like literally,
What?
it gets so cold here that you might get frostbite if you don't layer properly.
Okay. Oh my god. Winnipeg. You know, is being on this list is still like an honor in a way, I guess. Like, so even if you're ninth, like that's still you're still on the list. It's like the best of the it's like, how do you say it? Even the worst of the best is still the best. Anyway, I'm trying to make Winnipeg feel better for being number 9 on the list. I don't know that much about Winnipeg. I've heard the name. I think a lot of Americans have heard the name of the city Winnipeg for some reason. It's known enough for that, and yet most of us in America couldn't place it on a map or anything. But I thought the narrator said loser peg, and I was like, whoa, that's harsh. He said lose a peg, lose a leg, because it's so cold. Okay.
Winnipeg is actually the coldest and windiest major city in Canada, with 44 days per year where the wind chill hits negative 30 Celsius. But as May comes and the sub-zero temperatures begin to subside, don't breathe too big a sigh of relief, because you might just inhale one of Winnipeg's 39 different species of mosquitoes.
Whoa,
In fact,
okay, okay. I take back everything I said. I don't know about Winnipeg now. It's cold, and there's mosquitoes. I don't know. I see now. I see why it's number 9. I'm sorry, Winnipeg, but mosquitoes. I don't know.
Manitoba is often dubbed the mosquito capital of the world, since it's over 100,000 lakes results in literally millions of mosquitoes. But if you can look past the frost and bug bites and the fact that it's one of the most dangerous Canadian cities with a violent crime rate 61% above the national average, Winnipeg isn't terrible and actually offers a lot more than most cities its size. It's incredibly diverse, has one of the best museums in the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and is home to a solid economy, NHL hockey, a thriving arts and festival scene, and charming neighborhoods full of historic architecture.
Hey, Dollarama! I learned about Dollarama. I'm getting a little off track here. There's Dollarama in the background. Winnipeg, you're back in my good graces now. After that. It's funny, the narrator's now, like, kind of singing the praises of Winnipeg after really dogging it for a second there. Has a high crime rate. Like 61% above the Canadian national average. That's alarming, but God knows a lot of American cities are very similar. A lot of big, well-known American cities. The crime rates are disturbing. So I can actually relate to this a bit.
Sure. Plus, the average home cost is still just 351 grand, and there's hardly any traffic. Although Winnipeg is also the most sprawling city in Canada, so you need a car to live here.
Okay.
Number 8, Edmonton, Alberta.
Edmonton, Alberta. Most Americans have not heard of this one. I've heard about it somewhere along the line. In these Canadian YouTube videos, I've heard of Edmonton. I don't know anything about it, really. So it's number 8 on the list. Okay, so it's a big city.
Alberta is one of, if not the best province in Canada. So you probably assume it's
Alberta? Did he say Alberta is the best province?
Alberta is one of, if not the best province in Canada. So you probably assume its capital is a great place to live.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has a lot going for it with the largest mall and city park system in the country. Plenty of gorgeous...
Largest mall? The largest mall in the world is in Edmonton, Alberta?
Just nearby nature, stellar farmers markets, and a phenomenal cultural scene with over 50 festivals and unique art exhibits like the Neon Sign Museum and INIW Indigenous Art Park.
Nice.
But Edmonton is also the second coldest major city in Canada, and in a lot of ways feels more like a big town as it's mostly a collection of suburbs and factories with large distances and endless parking lots between the few cool neighborhoods.
You know, I'm okay with that. Like, I've never lived in a major city. Like, I don't know why I don't know why I just double spoke two words in a row. I should have said major city or major city. Major city. Never lived in one of those. Like a New York City or something, or like a Toronto in Canada, I suppose. So this almost kind of speaks to me as like a big city. That's almost like cheating. It's almost just a couple of suburbs and towns put together to make the city, so it feels smaller. I actually like that kind of feel, I think.
Like Old Strathcona, Chinatown, Garneau, and 124th Street. And while on paper it's a great place to live and save money with an average home price of just 370 grand compared to the median after-tax income of 84 grand, the predominantly blue-collar economy.
I think these home prices are good. I know this video here is like made 8 months ago or something. The median home price in Canada is like in between $400,000 and $500,000, I think. So these are a little below the market average, so yeah.
Is also overly dependent on the oil industry and thus very volatile. In fact, incomes have decreased by nearly 5% over the past 5 years. This has led to a large uptick in crime in rundown areas, and although the city is making strides to address these issues through their city plan, which includes massively diversifying the economy and for all future population growth to be via densification rather than outward expansion in hopes to make the city more lively, walkable, and urban. Today, nearly half...
Oh, that's very interesting. They have some problems with the economy here, like depending on oil, and they're wanting like more people to move here, but not expand the city, just have more people move in because it feels kind of like unpopulated or something. That I'm okay with that.
Of Edmonton is still empty lots or abandoned buildings.
Oh, Edmonton has some empty places. Okay. I didn't know Edmonton was so big. I think it said it had over 1 million, like 1.1 million residents or something. Anyway, moving on here to 7. Number 7 out of 9.
Number 7, Hamilton, Ontario. Most people not
Hamilton, Ontario.
From Hamilton think it's
Hamilton, Ontario. I'm not familiar with this at all. I've really never heard of this one. Hamilton, Ontario. Is this a big city in Canada? I mean, most Americans, such as myself, let's be honest, we know Toronto and like Montreal and Vancouver and Ottawa and maybe Quebec City. But I think most Americans don't even know Quebec City. That might just be a me thing. Anyway, that's about it. I know like 5 Canadian cities. Hamilton, Ontario. Okay.
It's just a dangerous, grungy, industrial city. And that's honestly a shame because...
What? What'd they say? Why is this number 7?
And think it's just a dangerous, grungy, industrial city. And
people think that. People think Hamilton is a dangerous, grungy, dirty city? But is that like a stereotype or something? Or but it's not true, or what?
That's honestly a shame because sure, it is full of older buildings and rough-looking areas, but Hamilton is actually the second safest city in Canada, and its downtown and surrounding areas are undergoing a huge renaissance with plenty of new restaurants, bars, cafes, and beautiful street art. Public transit is also solid. The hospitals and universities are among the best in the nation, and if you ever get bored, Toronto or Niagara Falls are less than an hour away.
Oh, whoa. It's an hour from Toronto and Niagara Falls. So it's probably close to the Canada-US border as well. If you get bored, you can always come here to America. I like this. Okay. It has it has an image problem or something, but it's got a lot of redeeming qualities. Nice.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, compared to Toronto, Hamilton will seem boring, but the people are also
Okay.
much friendlier, everything is less crowded, and it's got a great balance between city life and small town vibes.
Oh, I like that. I actually think that's quite important. Like, you have to be a certain type of person or a certain personality to really enjoy and thrive in the big city life and culture. So I think I lean towards something more like this, Hamilton, which is like a little more boring, but it can be in like a nice way, a simpler way.
I'd say the most similar US city comparison would be Pittsburgh, and not just because they're both
Oh.
the steel city in their respective countries. Both are very historic, humble, and weird towns which underwent huge economic hardships before reinventing themselves into gritty, artistic, entrepreneurial havens
Cool.
surrounded by beautiful scenery.
Oh,
But
that's
while
a
Pittsburgh
beach.
is still relatively cheap, Hamilton is almost as expensive as Toronto with an average home cost of 750 grand.
What? Never mind. No, never mind. Hamilton's not that great. I can find somewhere else. $700,000 to live in Hamilton. Okay, God bless you if you can live there. Good for you, man. You're probably happy for a lot of other reasons. Holy cow.
Economy is quite good too, however, with a median household income of 80 grand, resulting in a poverty rate of just 6.7%.
Okay.
Number 6, Toronto, Ontario.
Whoa! Toronto is 6? All the way at 6 out of 9? Wow, I didn't expect it to be so far down on this list, I guess. Toronto is famous! I've seen YouTube videos about Toronto. It's awesome. Look at that! Look at this picture! Look at that tower! The CN Tower! It's glowing! How can you put that at number 6? Okay.
What? But Toronto has so many problems. Who the heck would want to live there? Well, considering it's by far the
What? He's wow. The narrator is saying like, a lot of people might disagree with this ranking and put it worse. I didn't know Toronto had that kind of stigma as well. What were they saying about this?
Number 6, Toronto, Ontario. What? But Toronto has so many problems. Who the heck would want to live there?
Is that what people sound like when they talk about Toronto? 6 million people. Wow. 6 million people. Beautiful city. Beautiful. I mean, it is the Canadian city. No offense to the other cities, but it's like the city that Americans at least know of in Canada and usually think of. And it's got a lot of stuff. It's got stuff.
Well, considering it's by far the largest city in Canada, a lot of people. Sure, Toronto may have the second highest average home price at $1.04 million. And
What? What? I'm sorry for yelling, but how do you live in Toronto? How do you do that at that home price? One point what million? It's over $1 million.
sure, Toronto may have the second highest average home price at $1.04 million.
Right at $1 million. That's the average. $1 million. I mean, I guess maybe that's like the home price in like London as well, or New York City and all these famous cities. Toronto, like is that just how it goes? It's $1 million if you're going to be living in that kind of environment, like where everything is, the hustle and bustle, have the connections and opportunities that come with living there. But how do you even how do 6 million people like afford the average home price of $1 million? What is the mortgage like? I got so many questions about this.
And some of the worst traffic in North America, but it's also incredibly safe. And there's a reason so many people from all over the world are moving here. In fact, it's now the most multicultural city on Earth and likely the most desirable North American city for immigrants.
Wow. most multicultural?
Cultural city.
The most?
People from all over the world are moving here. In fact, it's now the most multicultural city on Earth and likely the most desirable North American city for immigrants.
I'm not surprised by that at all. I'm not surprised to hear that when people around the world think about where do I want to move, like Canada makes a lot of sense to me, just because of its image and its opportunities as well. And I was thinking it's kind of like just the more approachable, like more peaceful, probably like more comfortable version of the United States, like less chaotic version of the United States in a way. Or maybe the United States is just a chaotic version of Canada. You know, it goes both ways. So I'm not surprised that people around the world are like, I don't know about immigrating to like the US or something. Canada makes a ton of sense to me, actually, and with like all of its social service policies and stuff like that. So Toronto is the most diverse city in the world. I knew it was diverse, which is amazing. I didn't know it was the most in the world.
Mainly due to having the strongest and most diverse job market in Canada, with the second highest median after-tax income at 85 grand. But while Torontans work hard, they play even harder because between the abundance of world-class restaurants and entertainment, the amazing music and art scene, top-notch museums and universities, beautiful parks and beaches, the only NBA and MLB teams in Canada, and great public transit to access it all.
I mean, that's such a good way to put it. Like, I don't know why Toronto is down here at number 6, but it's got everything, and you can't really argue against that. You can argue against big city life and how like kind of crazy that can be and how slow the traffic is, but if you want to be where the stuff and I guess the excitement is, Toronto's probably the place to be. For $1 million, for the low price of $1 million a home.
Impossible to run out of things to do in this city. Add in the fact that Toronto has some of the mildest winters in Canada, and it's easy to see why Torontans don't mind spending more, as the best things in life usually ain't cheap.
Number 5.
Number 5, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Vancouver. I have heard such wonderful things about Vancouver. I'm shocked this isn't higher on the list. I thought Vancouver could have been number 1, actually. I did a reaction to Vancouver a while ago, and it was so lovely, so great. Man, that I don't remember the details, but I remember a lot of people singing the praises of Vancouver.
I won't beat around the bush. Vancouver is expensive. In fact, it's the most expensive city in Canada. But if you love the bush, few cities in this world can match the encompassing natural beauty of...
Yeah, I mean, just look at this picture. Like, that's amazing. I didn't know... I remember, I didn't know Vancouver was, like, on the water like this. By mountains and nature. It's beautiful.
Of this outdoor lover's paradise, which you can enjoy year-round since Vancouver's home to the most temperate climate in Canada. Heck, even
so it's actually somewhere in Canada where you can try to stay kind of toasty year-round? Maybe that's like an over generous, but the least cold place in Canada or region, that actually counts for a lot, coming from an American who withers away at any sign of cold.
Nature within the city limits, from the lush tree-lined streets to Stanley Park to 90% of the city being within a 5-minute walk from a green space, is breathtaking too. Seriously, Vancouver is so well designed in terms of mixing high-density urban living with nature that its style of planning and architecture is called Vancouverism, where residential slim skyscrapers are separated by low-rise commercial buildings and parks so they don't obstruct views of the coast or mountains, while nearly every task is able to be completed by foot, bike, or train.
Wow, this is almost like a smaller version of Toronto in a way. Although they said Vancouver is the number 1 most expensive city in Canada. Doesn't that kind of mean it's the most desirable place to live in Canada? If it's the most expensive, the market kind of determines that.
And aside from being a huge tech and entertainment
Wow.
center and offering every big city amenity, Vancouver is also Canada's gateway to Asia and Oceania. As such, it's the most Asian city outside of Asia, with 45% of the population being
because it's on the west coast. Right, okay.
Asian and 57% being visible minorities. This has
Wow.
resulted in the city having some of the best food on earth and so much rich heritage with many cultural events and festivals. So yeah,
Oh,
even
cool.
with an average home cost of $1.163 million and all that gloominess and rain, Vancouver continues to be one of the fastest growing cities.
Wow. Okay. You know what? We're about like halfway through this video so far. I'm very much enjoying this. This is a really fun list. Even seeing the rankings that this random video is giving the cities is kind of fun, and learning about, I guess, the pros and cons of the cities. Really. This is very fun. So I think I'm not going to rush this. I'm going to stop here for now and continue the rest of this list in part 2 and see what the top 4 biggest cities, the best apparently in Canada are. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on these Canadian cities and these rankings so far. And if you're interested in part 2 of this, or just more videos like this in general, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.